Hi, everyone. My name is Glenn Bronstein. I'm chairman of the board of JINLAW, and this is our first 2026 town hall. Thank you all for joining. We're a team of 58 participants, and thanks for taking the time to visit with us this afternoon. I'm joined by Peter Hecht and Aileen Schwartz, and I'll just give them a moment to introduce themselves. Peter.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to our first town hall. I'm super excited about it. For those of you that don't know me through JINLAW, I am the founder of Magna Legal Services. I recently retired from Magna, and I hail out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and I'm super excited to be here with Glenn. 2 years ago, if somebody would have told me that we would have a program like this in place after we met for that dinner, Glenn, I would have said, "Come on!" But thanks everybody for joining us today.
Aileen.
Hi, I'm Aileen Schwartz. I am General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer at QC Servian, which is a DLB Associates company. I have been with JINLAW since the beginning. About 2 years ago, Peter called me after he had that dinner with you, Glenn, and said, "Hey, would you like to join the board of this organization I'm about to form?" And I said, "I'm in." And I'm so excited to be here and be a part of this incredible group that is fighting anti-Semitism and racism through education.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, for those who may be attending a JINLAW program for the first time, JINLAW was created in the aftermath of October 7th to bring together Jewish professionals and allies across the legal and insurance communities to fight bigotry of all sorts. Our mission is both professional and communal to develop meaningful relationships, support one another's careers, create opportunities for education, mentorship, and ultimately to provide a credible and constructive voice in responding to anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry and hatred. We have two purposes for today's town hall. First, we'd like to give you a brief update on where JINLAW stands as an organization, what we've been building, and where we are headed. And then second, we have the privilege of hearing from our special guest, Ruth Millman, who will be introduced in a few minutes, a child survivor of the Holocaust, a national speaker whose experiences and whose decades of work educating others carry lessons of extraordinary importance. Just to pivot to goal one of today's meeting, just to talk a little about where JINLAW stands today. Peter, the president of the organization, I'll turn it over to you just to talk about again, the mission and where we are, membership and upcoming events and such.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Glenn. And again, thanks again for taking my invitation to dinner 2 years ago, because this is really, really a great purpose for us. JINLAW today, actually just recently, we just celebrated our 2 year anniversary, which was super exciting. We celebrated it in New York City with, over 100 members and non-members, allies that joined us, which was super cool. We're at right now, 500 plus members. Which is really also very exciting for us. They're all across the country. Our mission, our primary purpose is to combat anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred. So it's everything. And we want to really work together with our allies to do that. Membership is open to everybody. So you don't need to be, it's not a requirement to be Jewish to join the Jewish, to join JINLAW. So that's really important to note. The first year is free. It's $195 thereafter. What do you get for that membership? So the primary purpose, as I mentioned, is combating anti-Semitism. But the secondary purpose is that we're building a community, like Glenn just mentioned. And that community gives you the opportunity to enhance your career, to build your network, to meet people. One of the things that that I did to build Magna so quickly, over the years was, we provided really unique, educational CLE events that really blended entertainment and education together and brought people together, and that's part of what our goal is to bring people together for these two really important missions, again, combating anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred. We've been really knocking it out of the park. We provide, all kinds of, CLEs. We've done about 6 different CLEs. We've reached over 1,000 1,000 people through these CLEs. It's important to note that the CLEs are for members, but they're also, we open it up, we cast a wide net for everybody to participate in these CLE events. They're totally free of charge. And the theme of each CLE relates to combating anti-Semitism, racism, etc. So, we really work hard to get that message out there. The next CLE is on August 20th. Nancy Shanerman from Clydeco is going to be hosting and moderating that. It's going to be we're going to have panelists from AmFam, Matt Morrison, and Krista Glenn from Westfield Insurance, and David Barnard from Magna Legal Services, my favorite. And the theme there is going to be about defending cases with humanity in a polarized world. What's coming up, and actually I just want to mention one other thing. Last year, we'll be planning our next annual conference. Last year we awarded Glenn Bronstein with the JINLAW Catalyst Award, and the meaning of that award, from my point of view, is that he was the catalyst to get this thing going. We had that dinner, we talked about the need, and honestly, without Glenn's efforts, we would not be where we are today with the 500 plus members. So stay tuned for our next Catalyst honoree, which will be coming up. And we have a happy hour coming up on the 13th right here in Philadelphia. Aileen and I and Glenn and Rich Lenkov will be there. So join us there. And coming up also, which is really important, and another big initiative that Glenn put together recently, is on October 1st. We're going to be hosting the JINLAW Unity Award, and we're going to be honoring Robert Glassman. And I don't know, Glenn, if you want to maybe just share a few comments about what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't finalized the agenda, but look, we are a national organization. We think it's very important to hit communities across the 50 states, right? We've held networking events, like diverse places, Miami and New York and Chicago, Los Angeles. And, we don't just want to have our big events in New York. And so we've identified a place to hold our October event in actually Brentwood. And we're planning a host of very special speakers, again, to talk on issues of topical importance. I don't know, Peter, if everything's been finalized, but
Yeah.
it is finalized. So yeah, I think so that the plan is to have the district attorney of Los Angeles County speak at the Los Angeles event, to have Robert Shapiro, criminal defense attorney that we've all heard about, speak at that event, and then Noah Tishby, the Israeli actress and anti-bigotry activist as well, speak at that event. And so we're still in the organizational stages, but we do have a date, we do have a place. Again, it's October 1. Very excited about that. And for law firms or other sponsors who want to get involved, just let Peter and I know. But the event that we had at the Yale Club in February was really monumental and extraordinarily meaningful, having Judge Altman speak to us on, again, the topic of bigotry and what he was doing personally to fight bigotry. I thought it was extraordinarily impactful, and looking forward to our event on the West Coast as well. So I think plus or minus, that's it. Listen, I also want to just be candid about needs from our membership, right? JINLAW, it cannot just be built by a small group of board members and volunteers alone. Our next stage depends upon broader participation from our membership. We need members to invite colleagues into the organization, including allies who understand and support our mission. We need members to attend programs, volunteer, mentor young professionals, contribute ideas, post professional opportunities as we get that aspect of our work rolling, participating in our referral network, just supporting our broader communications and objectives. So with that, Peter, anything else before we turn it over to Aileen?
Yeah, just a couple more things. I just want to highlight one thing that for the program that we're going to be running in Brentwood, in California. The Unity Award is the one thing that we really want to establish is that we want to bring both the plaintiff and the defense bar together in this common mission, and that's why we're honoring Robert Glassman. And so super excited about that. You'll find a lot of information on that on our website, very shortly. A couple of other really new and exciting things going on with JINLAW is we've got chapters. That's right. So we're opening up our first chapter in New York City. That is going to be led by Shannon Sachs from Cozen O'Connor and Donna Caratenuto from Magna Legal Services. It's brand new. Like the paint doesn't even dry yet. So like stay tuned, but there's going to be lots of emails, social posting, and information on our website about upcoming events and their particular mission. We're already in the works with opening up an OC Orange County one in California. But if anybody is interested in starting a chapter in their local city, I would encourage you to reach out to Glenn or myself. We're all ears and we want to really get that rolling. And then look out for some information. This is also really fresh off the press. Jocelyn Gold is heading up our National Young Professionals Group. She's going to be building opportunities and awareness and membership for young people with JINLAW. So super excited about all that stuff. The future looks bright, and we want everybody to be part of it. That's it, Glenn.
Okay, well, with that being said, let's turn it over to Aileen to introduce our special guest of honor, Ruth Millman. Aileen.
Thank you, Glenn. So I want to introduce Ruth Millman, and I want to tell you a little bit about her before we have Ruth speak. And just so everyone knows, Ruth is going to do her presentation, and afterwards we're going to ask that anybody interested in asking Ruth a question, put that in the Q&A, and I will read them to her for you. So Ruth was born in Warsaw, Poland on July 16, 1938. Happy belated birthday, Ruth.
Thank you.
She was still a very young child when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and her family's world was changed completely. Ruth survived the Nazi persecution because of her parents' extraordinary efforts to conceal her Jewish identity. After the war, Ruth came to the United States as a refugee from a displaced persons camp with her parents and her sister. She grew up in New York and New Jersey. Ruth went on to become an accomplished entrepreneur, operating her own interior design business for more than 40 years. She has also been deeply active in her community and in Holocaust education. She founded the Women's Division of the Jewish Federation for the Greater Red Bank area, served on community boards, and spent years working to educate students and community organizations about the Holocaust. Ruth was recognized by the United States Department of State for her education service with the Anti-Defamation League. She also served for 6 years on the New Jersey's Holocaust and Hate Crime Commission and has participated in Holocaust education through Brookdale Community College. Her stated purpose is simple and profound: to remember her family members who were murdered, to bear witness while she still can, and to teach others about the Holocaust. Ruth, we are deeply honored that you are presenting for us today, and we want to hear your story and are grateful that you are trusting it with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I came to the United States. I came to the United States when I was about almost 11 years old. I was born in Warsaw, Poland. I lived there with my parents, my sister, and a wonderful extended family, aunts, uncles that lived around us and near us. We were a very wealthy family and a highly educated family. Both sets of grandparents were amongst us. We had wonderful holidays, celebrated many occasions together. And unfortunately, 80 people in just my family were murdered by the Germans. They were murdered. They were not killed. The Jews had no way of protecting themselves, as did other people as well. We had no guns. The guns were taken away immediately, so there was no way that we had of protecting ourselves at all. Many Jews were rounded up at that point in Warsaw. Young men were made to be naked so they could see if they were circumcised, because at that time only Jewish boys were circumcised. Unfortunately, many neighbors that we thought were friends that were Christian gave up their Jews as well and told the Germans who was Jewish. And so with that, many Jews were arrested and put into the Warsaw Ghetto. We stayed put, so worried, so afraid, trying to take care of our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles. But unfortunately, that did not work. We're standing on our balcony watching Hitler's army move in with the German dogs, with the officers with the high boots, so frightening for a child to see, marching through the streets of Warsaw, taking over the country. Eventually, we were arrested as well. My father was given an armband with a yellow Star of David so he could walk in the gutter, because that's what the Germans made the men do, to demoralize them. We were put into a small apartment with another family that we did not know. We had no idea where the rest of the family was. We knew most of them were in the ghetto. We didn't see them. We didn't hear from them. We couldn't find them. In the ghetto, it was like living in squalor. We were rationed food that was not enough for even one meal. There were bodies in the streets that people stepped over that the Germans killed. The Germans had games where they hit the children. They had straps made of leather with two balls at the end, and the two balls were iron. They swirled them until they hit a child or killed a child. They laughed. Nobody was there to protect us. There was nothing that we could do. My father then heard that my grandparents were going to go to a safer place, they were told, a place where they could have more food, where they could have more room and space. We soon found out that that wasn't true. They were being taken to Auschwitz, where eventually they were killed in the gas chamber, as were my other grandparents as well. I am 88 years old, and as I get older, I get more upset, angrier. You know, I get a lot of questions when I do this public speaking. I speak at universities, high schools, the Treasury Department in Washington, many different places. And I get a lot of questions from the audience. One question from an 18-year-old boy that was so poignant. I just could never forget this question. He asked Mrs. Millman, where was God during the Holocaust? And of course, I am not ready for these questions. I don't know they're coming, so I'm not prepared for the answers. And I thought a little bit, and I said to him, we have never seen God. We hope there's a God. We think there's a God, but we've never seen him. We're not sure there is. But where was man? Where were your parents, your grandparents? Where were the protesters? Nothing. There was no protesting. Nobody came to help us. Had there been in Israel, perhaps then some of the Jews would have been saved. That's why Israel is the most important thing in my life, as well as it should be in every Jew's life. But where was man? Why did no one did anything about this 6 million people were killed and no one helped. It is nothing like what we hear of what's happening in other countries, in Africa, in Gaza, wherever. Thousands, yes, is not 6 million. If you stop to think, that's an awful number. So to continue my story, we lived in the ghetto like this in an inhumane way. And then my father found out that the ghetto was to be bombed and everyone in the ghetto was going to be killed. My father approached 3 Nazi officers to see if they could get us out of the ghetto. Before my mother left the apartment, in her clothes, she sewed in some diamonds, some other jewelry, gold, rubies, worth a lot of money. And my father was bribing these officers to see if they could get us out. The Nazi officer said for the jewelry, they would get us out, but they could not get us out as a family. We would have to go separately, except for my mother and I, because I was a little girl at that time. So my sister, who was 10 years older than me, went to live in a convent and become a nun. My father was to be hidden in a 4-foot basement, and they had an opening in the floor covered with rugs, and they would bring food to him twice a day, and he would live there just like this for 4 years, maybe closer to 5, in this basement. My mother and my mother was to be married to a Christian person. The marriage was fake, but he would stay with us for 3 months. My name was changed from Ruth to Teresa, a saint's name. My mother took me to church every day, where I learned the rosaries, the songs, the hymns. So I would never know that I was a Jewish child. I would only know that I'm Christian. My name is Teresa. The last name is Sobesto, Teresa Sobesto, non-Jewish girl. And that's how I grew up with that. And that's how I thought I was until I was 12. And in the United States, my parents told me that I was really Jewish and that Teresa, that they called me all these years, was not my name. You can imagine how upset I was to be Jewish. I didn't want to be Jewish. What I saw happen for the last 5 years, there was no way I wanted to be Jewish. I was so happy to be a Christian. We lived with this man for 3 months. He then left us, and my mother and I had nowhere to go. We had no money. We had no family. We didn't know where anyone was. And my mother was a young woman, difficult for her to take care of a child. She taught me how to steal from grocery stores, and at night, just like you see the homeless of today, we slept in train stations, bus stations, on the street during the day, or at night I would run into grocery stores, steal food, and that's the only way that we would be staying alive. For about 5 months, we went on like this till we were finally caught by the Germans and we were put into a labor camp for Christians where my mother was making ammunitions for the Germans, working 18 hours a day, and I was just walking around with other children in the camp. It was bread and water for breakfast, soup for lunch, and bread and water for dinner. I was so malnutrition, I had never seen a doctor, and I finally got sick. My mother went to the Nazi officers and she said, "My child is sick. Could I have some medicine and some extra food for her?" They said, "No, we don't care. If one more Polish child dies, We are not giving you anything extra. At that point, my mother knew the only way to save us, to save me and to save herself, was to get out of this camp. By this time, the Americans came into the war, the English, and the camp was being bombarded every single night. The Germans were busy putting out the fires. The bombs were flying. My mother and 5 other women stole shears from the kitchen. They cut a hole in the fence and they ran out of the camp at night when the Germans were busy putting out all the fires from all the bombs that the Allies were throwing. We ran out of the camp, nowhere to go, didn't know where we were going. We boarded a train. We met a priest. The priest gave us some food, some medicine. We went from one train to another, from one place to another. We had no idea where we were going. We finally landed in Italy, in a town called Riccione, which is about an hour outside of Florence. And in Riccione, they were partisans living in the mountains. We knew that Italy, of course, was headed by Mussolini, so we couldn't actually stay there in the streets. My mother spoke 5 languages, and Russian was one of them. We met these partisans, and they were Russian. And my mother said that her husband is Russian and in the Russian army, and could they take us in? They said absolutely they would. We moved in with them into the mountains in Riccione, and we hid. They made beds for us out of twigs. They had food, berries, spinach that they picked. Some of the Italians brought food in at night. For the first time, we felt protected. They had guns, they were blowing up bridges. There were about 50 to 60 people, and we felt protected. We felt we were with other people that were on the same side that we were. They had no idea that we were Jewish. They thought that I was a Christian child, and my name, as I knew it, was Teresa Sevesto. We lived like this. I can't really remember time. At my age, at 88 years old now, I just forget all the times, whether we were there 2 years, a year and a half. All of a sudden, we heard this wonderful, wonderful sound. American officers driving in jeeps, driving in tanks, saying, "You're free, you're free." The Allies have won the war. You're free to go back to your homes. They were throwing out Hershey bars from the tanks, cans of American peaches, Hershey bars. Everyone was so thrilled. We were coming out of the mountains, and we knew that we could go back home. Sounds easier than it is. We knew we had to go to Poland. If we were going to find any family at all, it was only to be in Poland. Again, we had no money, no way to get back. We practically hitchhiked for weeks and weeks and weeks. Truman, our wonderful president, was putting up these Red Cross stations where they had lists of people that had survived, people that hadn't survived. And we made our way back to Poland to one of these Red Cross stations. And there were lists of people. My mother had 7 brothers and sisters, and they were all killed. Her parents were killed. So you can understand the upsetting of the whole thing, but she knew she had a little girl that she had to take care of. On the list was my father and my sister, who were living in Lodz, the second largest city. And there, they were looking for us. They had found each other, and they were looking for us all over the world. You can imagine how excited we were. They got in touch with them. The Red Cross took us for our wonderful, wonderful reunion. And we met with my sister and my father, who we hadn't seen in years. We all decided that we wanted to get out of Poland, which was as anti-Semitic afterwards as it was anti-Semitic before. And unfortunately, to this day, my father applied to come to the United States to get out of Poland. The Iron Curtain had fallen, so he hired an ambulance. We all were put to the bottom of the ambulance, covered by blankets. He took so many chances. That's the only way we were able to survive this war, with all the chances that he took that could have gone wrong. We went from Poland to East Germany, from East Germany to West Germany. So excited to be there. And there we were put into a displaced persons camp, where for the first time, I was taken to a doctor. I was taken to a dentist. I was ever in a doctor's office. I was sick. I was malnutrition. My mother was sick in a different way that would never leave her. So we were put in the displaced persons camp, and there we were asked where we would like to go. We had choices of going to Israel, Argentina, the United States, and my father had a friend in the United States in a place called New York and a place called Broadway, which he never heard of. And there he wrote to the friend. The friend said to please come. He would take care of finding an apartment. He would help us. So we were so thrilled. And at that point, we were waiting to get on to the Ernie Pyle, which is a warship. It took 14 days on the Ernie Pyle. And we were able to get to the United States. Mr. Frajman, who was the name of the man that was my father's friend, was waiting for us. He helped us find an apartment across the street from Grant's Tomb in New York in the 90s. I was put into school in New York. By that time, I was probably almost 11, did not know how to read or write, had never been to school. I was put in the first grade. Not only was it humiliating, I couldn't speak English and had never been to school. And my father said, because this wonderful country took us in, we are going to become totally assimilated. We're going to speak English. We're going to eat American food. We're going to become Americans. We're not going to live where other Polish people live. We're going to become Americans. It was so important to him. And that is exactly what I did. In the mirror, I worked on my accent, my Polish accent, until I lost it. I learned English very quickly. It took me 2 years to catch up. And after 2 years, I was able to catch up, never in math, but certainly in everything else. So my message to future generations is how important it is to have the state of Israel. How some of the Americans don't realize how important it is, how to be on their side no matter what they do, how to not judge their presidents. We don't judge the Portuguese president. We don't judge the president of Argentina. We don't judge the president of other countries, not to judge anybody and what Israel does. If there had been in Israel, 6 million people would not have died. We have to give them financial support, and we have to give them support in our thoughts. Not all Jews are doing that in this country. The proof is in the mayor of New York. So we have to be very supportive. The Holocaust was a genocide like no other. That is what a genocide was. I just want to thank you for listening to this. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. And thank you for your time.
Ruth, thank you so much for speaking to us. And yes, we have a bunch of questions that are coming in. With the rise of anti-Semitism, what advice do you have?
Unfortunately, it's so difficult to stop anti-Semitism. I'm so happy for your organization that has started. And I hope that you look to succeed, and every organization that starts will succeed. Has to come from the governments. The anti-Semitism has to be stopped by the government, by the president, by the people that are against anti-Semitism and any hate of any kind. It's difficult for us to stop it on our own. So each government, each president has to stop it.
Can you tell us a little bit about how your sister and your father survived during that time? Did they speak about the stories to you? Are you aware?
My sister was in a convent. The convent was taken over by the Germans, and my sister was put into a labor camp. She was 17 at that time, maybe 18. What a difficult thing that she could not talk about. My sister came to this country. She had finished high school, but she was never the same. She was married. She had 2 children, but mental illness and depression followed her as it followed my mother. My mother was alive. My sister was alive, but not in the way you think. They were sick forever. My father was very strong, went into business, did very well, knew he had to be strong. I was young, so I was able to forget it just temporarily, but I was never sick. I guess I was stronger than they were. But my sister and my mother suffered the rest of their lives. It just doesn't go away that quickly.
When you look back on the choices your parents made, what would you most like us to understand about their courage and their sacrifices?
I think they had courage. They took a tremendous amount of chances. They sacrificed their whole lives. The reason they didn't leave Poland is because they had their families there, their business. They were close to their families. They didn't leave thinking who could possibly allow something like this to happen. The Germans were animals. They weren't people, they were worse than animals. Who could possibly have thought that they could do what they did with the concentration camps, the gas chambers, the things that were unheard of, and no one did anything to stop them. Not the United States either.
We know many of your family, your extended family, didn't survive the Holocaust. What would you like us to know about the people who didn't survive?
That's a very hard question to answer because they were wonderful, educated, kind people. They had children, my aunts, my uncles. My grandparents were young, they were in their 50s. I didn't know them. I didn't get to know them. I cannot tell you about them. We have 3 pictures of my entire family, just 3. So I have no background on these people whatsoever.
Share with us more about the day that you found out the war was over, if you could.
That was so amazing. Everybody was laughing, crying, trying to kiss the American soldiers. It was amazing. They were kind, they were sweet. They touched us, they came down from their tanks. It was the most unbelievable day. We never thought we'd see a day like that. And that's when we started to trying to find out how we would get back to Poland, which was our only chance to find any family. We found so few family. My father's brothers and sisters were killed. His parents, my grandparents on the other side. It was a very difficult thing to imagine.
After you got to the United States, I know you said you assimilated as an American, did you assimilate with other people who had survived the Holocaust as well?
We had, but most of our friends were not Holocaust survivors. We had American friends. We had a few friends that were in the Holocaust. I started speaking on the Holocaust very early. I must have been all of 16. And I started speaking then and got involved to honor the people that were all killed. But I did not just have friends that were Jewish, or certainly not friends that were Holocaust survivors only at all. So assimilated with everybody, became an American, worked for Jewish organizations, but worked for American organizations as well. I worked in soup kitchens. I worked in hospitals that were psychiatric to help children. I knew I had to do my share for this country that gave me such a wonderful chance.
What do you think the most effective way for each of us to combat the rise in anti-Semitism is?
Not look the other way, not say it's not my business, not say I'm too busy, not take care of your own life only, and give some time to organizations so they can possibly help anti-Semitism to get involved. If you're not involved, you can't complain about it. If you just read about it and watch it on television and don't get involved, vote for the party that's going to help the Jews. Vote for the party that combats anti-Semitism now. And
What,
definitely get involved. Are these questions, Aileen, from all people that are calling them in?
yep,
They are.
we're getting a lot of questions coming in. What is the best type of support you have seen from non-Jewish friends, coworkers, and community members?
I must say, from non-Jewish friends, we do get support, but support is mostly, and they wish us well. They hope we do well. Many of my non-Jewish friends are so upset at what's being done. They are not anti-Semitic, but they do not get involved. They wait for the Jews to get involved, and I can understand that. The only people that get involved, that can get involved more, are the people that are Jewish and are not involved and not doing anything. And writing a check is not enough. Writing a check helps a lot, and I understand that. Raising money helps a lot, but they have to get involved, even if they have to protest, even if they have to go out with placards. Evidently, that does a lot, as you see.
What do you think the best way we can encourage people who aren't Jewish to join combating anti-Semitism?
By explaining to them how horrible anti-Semitism is by explaining to them that we did nothing to Gaza. We hadn't been there in 20 years. There was no genocide in Gaza. Someone has to explain that to all the people. When the people got to Israel, there were 22,000 people there that were Gazans. Now there are close to 4 million. What genocide is that? They hadn't set foot in there for 20 years until October 7th happened, and then they had to defend Israel and defend themselves. Nobody knows that. Get that information out. Get that information out when you can and talk about it. There was no genocide. A lot of people that were protesting in New York, they don't know there wasn't a genocide, especially young people, especially people at universities. They don't know that. Someone has to teach them, professors, someone other than the people that are teaching them now.
Even after arriving in New York in a relatively safe place, did the experience of the war continue to affect your family on a daily basis? I know you talked about your mother and your sister never recurring, and your dad was strong. Is there more you can tell us about how you moved on afterwards, when you finally were feeling you were in a safe place?
We moved on because we had to. We never stopped thinking about it. My mother was sick. We thought about it. My sister got sick. Then they got better. Then they got sick again. The Holocaust was very hard to ever leave us. My sister married an American man. I married an American man. It helped. It helped to have an American family. My children knew about it. I spoke about it so early on. Very difficult to leave this behind and just go on with life. Very difficult.
What helped you move forward and create a life after such a traumatic beginning as while you were still a child?
What made me move forward is when I was with other children that were supportive. What made me move on is when I got married. I had my own children. I didn't talk about it all the time. I told them about it. They saw me speaking. They knew that I spoke. I certainly embraced my Judaism, became active in Jewish causes, certainly joined a synagogue. Never very religious. It's difficult to be religious after what I had experienced. Because, as the young man put it, when he asked me that question, where was God? So, unfortunately, it's not about religion for me, even though I taught my children religion. It's mostly about Israel. It's mostly about being a Zionist, but it is not about religion. Never left me for a day, never.
That seems to be a common occurrence amongst survivors and their families of becoming less religious when they came to the United States because of what they had been through. You're not the first person. I've seen that in my own family.
Really?
Those that survived that were not religious when they came here because of what they had been through. Culturally, they remained Jewish, but they were much less religious than they were previously. So
in our family as well, culturally very Jewish, culturally to pass it on to my children, supportive of Israel, very much so, but difficult to be religious, very difficult.
Hey, Ruth, I have a quick question for you. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about going back to when you were in Italy and your mother and yourself found refuge with the partisans. You mentioned that they didn't know that you were Jewish. What would have happened if they knew you were Jewish or had discovered that you were Jewish?
We would have never had a chance to be with them, and we knew that. And we wanted not to take the chance that the partisans would know that we're Jewish. It was very difficult at that point to take a chance on anything. Our only out was if the partisans would take us. If we told them we were Jewish, what if they were anti-Semitic? What if they would have not wanted us? A very strong possibility. Very strong.
And if I,
I have one. Go ahead, Len.
well, no, you can go, Peter.
Just one quick follow-up question, Ruth. I have three young children, and I'm just curious, if you were speaking to, a young Jewish person today that was, thinking about concealing their Judaism, because that's a real thing, not being afraid to wear your Jewish star, things like that. Like, what would you say to a young Jewish American today that's concerned about, wearing their Jewish star, concealing their Judaism today?
I would never conceal my Judaism. It would make me so sad to do it, but I would never flaunt it either. Can you imagine the poor kids that are now at universities, what they're going through with the anti-Semitic professors? So many professors are anti-Semitic. People are embarrassed to say so, but it's true. They should be fired, and they're not. Other professors should be hired that are neutral or Jewish. So I would not flaunt it. I would be afraid to. Look what's going on, what they do to the Jewish students. What I would say to your children is never give up Judaism. Give them a hope for Israel and how wonderful of a country it is and what they have accomplished, what they have achieved, what they have done to help the world. That's one thing I do constantly. You don't like Jews? Drop your phones, drop your GPSs, don't take diabetic medication. Don't take the x-rays that now you can take in a pill. Don't do all the things. Desalination of water, helping farmers grow vegetables all over the world. Take all that away, and that's what you have to tell your children, how much they've accomplished.
I could
But
just,
it's not easy to be Jewish.
we're approaching the end of the hour, but I did want to ask, what gives you hope, if anything?
One thing gives me hope. Israel is the number one thing that gives me hope. A government in our country that will support Israel and not vote in a Mandami. So vote for the right people that will support Jews and support Israel. If they don't, we have no chance.
Ruth,
Oh.
we really, really appreciate you speaking to us today. It has been such a pleasure to have you. Does anybody, Peter or Glenn, have any final comments, questions for Ruth?
Not final questions, but just to say thank you, Ruth, for sharing your story, for trusting us with your story. I don't think I'll ever forget your story. And so extraordinarily impactful. Thank you for being with us. I encourage everybody on the call today to just remain involved with us, attend future programs, invite a colleague or ally to join, contribute to our professional networks, consider how your own experiences and relationships can help strengthen this community. Thank you to everyone who helped organize today's town hall. Thank you all for joining us. And a special blessing, Ruth. Thank you so much again. And everybody, have a good evening.
It was nice meeting you.
Ruth, thank you very much. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Aileen. And if you're not a member of JINLAW, find us at jinlaw.org and learn more about us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.